Hello everyone, welcome back to The Real Starfighter, and today we are talking about lists. We're talking about a list that has been created since we got the new point announcement the other day, and I'm super excited. I'm going to go Empire for this season. Well, I'm hoping to go Empire for this season because we got back one of my favorite pilots in the game, one of my favorite pilots in Star Wars, and that is Soontir Fel. He's back in hyperspace. He's with a bunch of other TIE Interceptor pilots, and I'm super excited to have him back. Not only that, but we also get to keep Palpatine. That was one of the things I was super shocked about when we got the points dropped last time, was they made Palpatine hyperspace legal. Of course, they did that at the cost of giving the Empire no aces to for him to help out. It was basically you had to put him in a swarm, and only the TIE Reaper and the Decimator could carry him. Two ships that are not super amazing, but can hold them, but in a list where you're flying a swarm with low pilot skill and you're kind of all over the place, it wasn't very powerful. It was very awkwardly priced. You're always, short for an extra ship, or you're too expensive by a couple points. It was always awkward for me to try to find a list to put Palpatine in, so I kind of stayed away from him. But now that we got Aces back, we can bring back an oldie list from 1.0 days when I started playing, and that was the Palp Aces list. So in that spirit of I want to bring back Palp Aces, I made this list called Palp and Squints. Just so you guys know why I have Squints in there is, Squints is the slang term for the TIE Interceptor. The reason why is because the TIE Fighter were called eyeballs, because it was an eyeball on a stick, basically. And what they did with the TIE Interceptor, what it looked like is they just got the TIE Fighter and they squished it down so it's like an eyeball squinting at you. So that's why they call them squints for the TIE Interceptors. But anyway, enough about the history of Star Wars and some things you can say, but let's talk about the list itself. So the list is fairly simple. It's got a lot of tricks in it for only having 4 upgrades, but it's still a good list. In my opinion, it's simple but strong. So, of course, at the top of the list, we have Soontir Fel. Soontir Fel is the ace of the Empire. Arguably could compete with Vader, but never will in this game because Vader is just way too good with his ability. But Soontir's ability is at the start of the phase, if there is an enemy ship in your bullseye arc, gain 1 focus token. So this is gaining, it's not an action, so you can double reposition and acquire that focus token. But we put Predator on there too to really amplify the getting in the bullseye arc. So that way when you're shooting at a target in the bullseye arc, you're able to re-roll and land on those focuses and convert them. Or re-roll the focuses if you have no or if you don't want to spend it, whatever have you. Basically, it's just get them in the bullseye. And Soontir, like I said, is a very straightforward pilot to fly, but he's very hard to fly and choose those situations where you need to get someone in your bullseye or you need to go around for another pass. It's all dependent on the situation. So that's Soontir Fel in a nutshell. The next one is Siana Ree. She's one of the new pilots coming out. She's unreleased right now, but we still want to talk about her and see what she can do. And her pilot ability it's not as strong as Soontir. It's not a very ace kind of ability, but it is an ability that has a kind of like a comeback feature built in a little bit, but it also has a penalty for being ahead. And her ability reads, after you perform an attack, if the defender was destroyed, gain 1 stress token. Not necessarily really good, but the other one's a little bit better. After a friendly ship at range 0 to 3 is destroyed, remove 1 stress token. Okay, so you put yourself a double reposition ability, you lose a friendly ship, and you remove your stress token. Obviously, with a list with only 3 ships, you really don't want to lose a ship, and if you're proccing that ability twice, then you're in a really bad situation. And her main ability is when you destroy a target, she gains a stress. Not particularly good as well, but it's all about how you fly her. If you have her shoot first, and then have Soontir clean up or have the Decimator clean up, it makes her ability not go off, but it makes her, makes you want to punch differently with her. Maybe you save some action economy, some token economy for defense. But the other thing I thought about was when I was flying with her in some of the practice matches with myself was I kind of thought if I let the ship die, she gets a stress token. And that's kind of a mind game you can play with your opponent that, if you go in and they see like, oh, I only have 2 hits left and she rolled 2 hits. If I let those go through, they get a stress token. And now if you double repositioned that turn, she has 2 stress tokens. I thought that was a very kind of dirty way of getting 2 stress tokens. And there's ways around it, which we'll talk about in the, what we got in the Decimator. But the kind of little mind game right there that you play with your opponent, that could, that can mean a difference. Because remember, if you remove a ship from the board, you're removing their resource. The ships on the board are like your deck of cards in any TCG game. And, when you run out of cards, you run out of resources, you run out of plays. So if they're giving up ships, then I think, in my opinion, you're plussing off of that more because you can get around that. You can find a ways to get around that, and you have protection in this list to protect yourself from when you don't have tokens or you're in bad positions where you're getting swarmed with dice. And we're going to talk about those guys next, and that's what we bring the Decimator for. So we got a Vt49 Decimator, one of the coolest ships in the X-wingMiniatures game. I think it's just it's basically to me just a giant tank on the board. And it is equipped with Emperor Palpatine and Darth Vader. Now, we all know it, or we're pretty familiar with Emperor Palpatine. And Emperor Palpatine is, while another friendly ship defends or performs an attack, you may spend 1 force charge to modify one of its dice as though if that ship had spent 1 force charge. This is a lot better than the 1.0 one because in reality, if you had 2 force charges, you can use this twice. It doesn't say once per turn anywhere. So that's a majority of the reason why we play Darth Vader. Darth Vader is basically here just to give our ship another force charge. So that way we have 2 force charges to spend 1 on each pilot or 1 on each. Or both on each, it depends on what the situation is. But Darth Vader also has a really cool ability, which is at the start of the engagement phase, you can choose 1 ship in your firing arc at range and spend 1 charge. If you do, that ship suffers 1 damage unless it chooses to remove 1 green token. This is a good way to catch ships that just K-turned or maybe they bumped into you, trying to catch you, that you can just flip that force token and give them a free damage. It could kill them. It could, it could just, push that extra damage through, to get rid of a shield. So that way the interceptors hit on hull. It's all, it kind of helps you set up the plays or finishes the plays that you started. I think Vader is there for that one really integral reason. And then if you don't need to use Vader that turn, then you just got 2 Palp tokens. So again, it's a very simple list, but it's also something that is tactically sound, in my opinion. It's a classic escort style. You basically fly the TIE interceptors in what we call a loose deuce. Basically what a loose deuce is basically you have a 2 fighter formation and you don't necessarily fly super close together. You fly a little bit more spread out so that way you can kind of cover each other a little bit more, switch places with one another. It's just a good way to cover a little bit more area with 2 ships. Especially with this list, when you want to be able to reposition a lot, you want to have that space. So a loose deuce is absolutely perfect. And you usually see those when you're escorting bombers or cargo or VIPs, and that's exactly what the Decimator is. It's carrying VIPs, and those VIPs are very important to the Empire. It's Palpatine and Vader. I don't think there's anyone else that's more important than those 2 in terms of chain of command at our disposal for the X-wingMiniatures game. So anyway, this is the list. Hop and squints. Let me know what you guys think about it. If you got another tweak to this list or want to put something else on there, or have another idea, maybe you got something with a Reaper, I'm kind of cooking up with that one as well. Make sure you drop in the comments, tell me about it. I'll, review it. I'll fly against it. I'll do things with a bunch of lists. I'm just super excited to have, interceptors and aces back, especially a Palp Ace kind of list back in X-Wing. So, just give those lists to me. I'm super excited to see what you guys put out there. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, share with your friends if it helped you out. This place crawls. And always check your 6.